Recording, and we're good. All right, everybody, welcome to our first of our 6-part series where we are going to be doing some training around how to coach different situations in corporate. So today we're going to be talking about trust, and I want to say we're really excited about this turnout. We have a lot of names and blasts from the past that we've seen throughout our years, and then we also have a large amount of brand new people to our world. So we're really excited that you're here. This is going to kick off one of 6 different webinar series, and this is one that Karen and I really like a lot, and we've used a lot in the corporate work that we've done. So first and foremost, we want to say welcome. Couple of things, Karen, before you even get a chance to utter a word. I'm going to give people the ability to interact with us. So there is a chat box that you're able to type in hello, where you're from, ask questions, and Karen and I are going to make this very interactive, where we're going to want some people to talk to us live and some people to be able to type into the chat. So if you send it to all panelists and attendees, it goes to everyone. If it only goes to the panelists, it should only come to Karen and I. So we see Sandy's here from San Antonio. We have William on the call, Jen's on the call, Gail from Atlanta, Nancy from Georgia, Shantae from Virginia, Lorna from Reno, and Lori from Delaware. So
you're not going to go through the rest of those 80 people?
No, I'm not, but this is exciting, right? So we have 87 people on the call right now, and I know more will be coming. So the other thing to interact is we do have a Q&A box. You're more than welcome to type in a question if you have it along the way, and we'll be able to pull those in as well. So we want to make this interactive, and we'd love for people can also raise their hand, and we can call on you and have you speak to us live as well. Any other logistics we need to say, Kara?
Nope.
All right. And we are recording this, obviously, and we will be sending out the link in the evening time each of the days of the webinar. So I think on that note, Kara, you and I know that we jam a lot in the time that we have, so I think it's time to get going. What do you think?
I say go.
All right. So this is us. My name's Jen, and
I'm Karen. Hello.
And Karen and I are from KickStart Your Edge, for those of you who don't know us. We have been coaching for quite a long time. I've been coaching since 2007, and Karen, you've been coaching since?
2010.
2010, right. We're also married, so that brings in another fun element. So if we flirt a little with each other, it's because we really like each other. And but we also do all of our work together. So we own our business together. It's called KickStart Your Edge. And we work primarily in 2 different avenues. One is that we go into corporations and we work with individuals, teams, and organizations to help them be better leaders within their organization. And the other part that we do is we also train coaches on how to work in organizations. So, Kara, anything you want to share about your background? I know people will get to know us as we go along through the 6 series, but anything you want to add?
Yeah, well, before that, a couple of things. We do spend a lot of time together. So, yeah, we work together, we play together, all those kind of things. So we do spend a lot of time together, and you're going to get the sense, if you haven't gotten that sense already, that Jen is going to do most of the talking. I'm kind of tweetable. You'll get like 160 characters here and there, and I prefer to be short, sweet, and to the point. One of the things too, in addition to the leadership aspect of the part of that side of our business, one of our big things is teams. And we work with teams, and it doesn't matter what level of those teams are. They could be executive leadership teams, it could be middle management teams, it could be even boots on the ground. So we love that whole aspect of working with teams. Just a little bit about me, and I'm going to keep this really short, sweet, to the point. I came from the law enforcement world. For those of you that don't know me, I did 25 years and 2 months as a police officer in New Jersey, and I retired as a chief back in 2010. And I've always, since I first started the job, been a leadership junkie. So this whole leadership thing really, really, really hits my sweet spot. Jen, on the other hand.
Yes, I come more from the corporate background. So the fun thing is that Karen and I blend the both of our unique worlds. We have different perspectives and two different ways of doing things. A lot of things were right in line. Other times we're a little bit over this way or looking over that way. But the beautiful thing is you guys will get the benefit of hearing two different approaches and two different ways to going. So, Karen, why don't you go ahead and cover give us an overview of what we're going to cover today.
So basically, here's the nuts and bolts. We're going to talk trust. And the bottom line is if you don't have it, quite frankly, you're probably screwed with the teams that you're working with. And if they don't have it, they're screwed. But we're going to talk about what it is, why it's important, how to coach it, and then we're going to answer questions, whatever that might be that might pop up for you during, at the end of the webinar today. But we do want the interaction during, so we're going to ask a bunch of questions. We're going to throw things out to you. We're going to get your comments, your feedback, and we'd like to make things fun and interactive. We are not about sitting here and talking at you for the next 50 minutes or so.
So I love that. And the other thing, we are going to take you through an exercise that we have used with teams before, and it includes a video. So hang tight for that. Really briefly, so I sort of feel like we're setting the foundation for our whole 6 series. So we're not going to be doing introductions each and every time, etc. What we do want to show you briefly, and we'll talk more as it becomes more relevant, this is the Kickstart Your Edge coaching model that Karen and I use with all of our engagements. There's 3 different components to it. We have the outer blue ring, the green ring, and then the gray ring. As you can see on the outer blue ring is the word trust. Often we will get hired by organizations because there's a lack of trust, or teams aren't functioning the way they should be, or the teams are going in 8 different directions and not following the leader. So trust is a topic where people actually hire you to be able to focus on that particular area. So we always talk about the outer blue ring, but when we get into organizations, we really coach from the gray and the green. So the gray is looking at individual belief and perspectives. What's their worldview? How do they see things? We look at values, and we have to look at personal values, team values, as well as company values. And then there's also the purpose, the connection, your deeper sense of why you do what you do and who you are in this world. We layer that with what we call TFAR, which are thoughts, feelings, actions, and results that then are going to affect the blue ring. So often when people call us into organizations, we're not like, well, first we look at your worldview and then we look at the way you think about things. We say, of course, we can help the team with trust. We can help improve communication. We can really dig into resourcefulness in new and creative ways. But then once we're in there, we're making sure the green and the gray is being covered.
Jen, another thing too is sometimes the people don't even know that they're not trusting each other, and they'll bring us in to do some stuff with conflict management or how do we build a team, different things like that. So sometimes they don't even know what they don't know. So it's our job to kind of help them see it.
Love it. Okay, so let's just dive into trust right now. So this is going to be the interactive part. So we want to know from you guys, you can type it in, your answers, or you can raise your hand and we can call on you. What is it that you think really creates trust? What comes to top of mind when you see that? What is it that creates trust? All right, we have listening, being your word, comfort, transparency, safety, honesty. Oh my God, it's going so fast. Consistency, transparency, FaceTime with people, vulnerability, accountability, follow through, sharing a vulnerability and being heard, communication, honesty. All right, actions and words are in alignment. Love it. I know it's interesting in honesty, right? So here's a question I pose. So honesty comes up a lot. So the question is, does honesty create trust, or does the way the honesty is communicated create trust? Something to think about, right? Some people can be brutally honest. and it comes out of left field, there's a harsh startup to it, and all of a sudden you walk in a room and bam, you get smacked with it. Does that actually create trust? So I love it, Shantae. So it's, yes, it's the way that it's communicated. So things to think about as we go through this, right, is that some actions, it's really the way the actions are delivered that create the trust. Sally shared, oh, hi, Sally. Probably down a little bit south in Florida of where we are right now, Kara. So Sally, she says, how about honesty and compassion? Diana says, some people use honesty as a weapon, right? Sharona says, it helps about understanding other people's perspectives. So love it. So there's so many different things that create trust. And we're going to share with you some of the things to help be able to build trust as well. All right, Kara, you ready to do the next one?
Let's go.
All right.
So we know, right? So we know what creates trust, and would love to get your comments and thoughts on what actually breaks trust. So you're going along and boom, what happens?
All right, we have violation of values, a broken word, deceit, lies and deceit, gossip, lack of boundaries, having your own agenda, assumptions. The words and actions are not in alignment, simply not listening. Let's see, I had some other ones. It's all about your own agenda. Actions and words don't match. Lies and what a person does. Not being accountable, says David. Words are different than actions, being hypocritical, and a lack of feeling safe. Interesting, right? So that's very interesting, Scott, right? The lack of feeling safe. Because it's where trust is all about being able to be vulnerable and being able to trust an environment or a situation or a person or an organization to hold that vulnerability in some type of integrity, right? So if I trust Karen about something, I think she's going to have my best interest. She may need to protect me at times. I'm just sort of making this up at the top of my head. But the moment that maybe I feel exposed or a vulnerability wasn't held in the right space, that may tend to break trust between two people.
You know, too, Jen, I think that the big thing that pops up into my head while you were just talking was that vulnerability piece, right? So you're putting yourself out there, you're being a little bit vulnerable, and then if somebody throws that back at you, that's a surefire way to break a trust in any kind of relationship.
Totally. Yeah, which is interesting. Okay, so a lot of the other things to realize that with trust, it's about that it can get broken like that.
Like what?
Like that. You snap, Kara. I have a stronger snap than Kara. That's just a little bit of trivia about us. Right? Okay, so sometimes it takes a while to build trust, and one action or a sense of betrayal can have trust go out the difference, right? Okay, so let's go into the next question we have is what behaviors then show up when trust isn't there? What are the behaviors that show up when trust isn't there? Secrecy, defensiveness, avoidance again, backbiting, quiet, being guarded, overly measured, apathy, attack, disengagement, withholding, passive aggressive, that's great, water cooler talk, protection, a disinterest, drama, we got a couple of dramas coming in. Manipulation is another one that whizzed by me really quick. So it's interesting. Turnover or lack of engagement was another one, and resignation. False harmony, that's interesting, Leanne. That's cool. I like that as a concept, right? Turf war, silos, fight, reservation, poor results. So when trust isn't there, then a whole bunch of different things happen. but the behaviors that usually come up are in some form of protection, right? So we're going to protect ourselves from being vulnerable and trusting again and then getting burned. We're going to protect ourselves from we might get defensive, right? Because there's a big blame going on within the organization. Oh, Jim wrote in comparison bias. That's interesting, right? All right. So it's interesting and important because a lot of times our clients are not going to say, I need to be coached around trust. You may hear in some of their scenarios that they share with you about their behaviors that are coming up with, well, I just don't really know what, for example, when I'm really having a hard time, I find that I have to work around this person. That leads to, I just get really curious there on what is that connection to trust right there. So hearing behaviors that sound like the foundation of trust could be gone. So as coaches, we're going to listen for their words. We're going to be able to acknowledge when trust is being built. We're going to be able to notice when trust is being destroyed. So again, if you're working with a leader and they talk about the fact that they want to have a standing meeting the third Monday of the month, and then they tell people that, their participation is required as part of their performance, and then the leader during the summer times cancels all the meetings, what is that mixed message doing for trust on the team? Anything to add there, Kara?
No.
Okay. So the key thing then to find out as you want to coach trust more, what's your own relationship with trust?
If you were to just think about that, and if you were just to pop one word in through the chat box, what your true relationship is with trust, what's that one word?
Nancy says trust is something that's earned. We have peace, varies, balancing act, embrace, guarded, complicated, needed, trust but verify, intense, growing, ambivalent, intuition, comfortable, cautious, given, thoughtful, non-judgmental. No, it isn't about me. I trust until it's broken. It's offered until broken. Great words, Kara. It's interesting. And hi, Patrice. Patrice says essential, non-judgment. Scott is a golden retriever. So a couple of things to think about, right? So I remember having a conversation with somebody about trust, and her belief was, you need to earn my trust. And I thought that was such an interesting perspective on trust, because I am a person that I trust usually out of the gate. No one needs to earn it. It's there. And then we sort of navigate how that's going to look going throughout whatever the relationship is, right? The interesting thing was the earning the trust, it's almost like somebody had to prove something before they got it. So it's just an interesting thing to see what your own relationship is, because we tend to have biases that will come out in our coaching based on the way we see the world.
Jen, what's interesting about that too, and I can see your perspective now, but coming out of that law enforcement world, I got to tell you, I didn't trust anybody. And the reason being, as a cop, you get lied to like 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day, from silly little things like, how fast were you going? Oh my God, no, I wasn't speeding. To, anything, no, I didn't do it. Okay, well, you're standing there with the bloody knife. So it really is. It's like how you're programmed until you want to get programmed a little bit differently. So I like to throw this out there, because whatever your relationship is with trust, I challenge you to challenge yourself about why you have that perspective, and does the perspective work for you, or does it work against you? And if it's working against you, it's some good personal development there to take a look at it and say, hey, you know what? It might be time to try to see things a different way.
Love it. Lauren says, how much does past resentments play into your current view of trust? That's a great question, right? And that's going to be for individuals to really know. But I do think that the way we see the world is obviously built from many different perspectives, right? So we have our upbringing, our education, our parents, the communities that we were in, etc., that come into play, and also our past experiences. So it's the key thing is it's then about what needs to be let go of from the past in order to have a new relationship with trust. And that's a great question, right? So I like that, but I do think that a lot of times if people, especially if they've been burned, people tend to hold on to those things. And it's about their past. But the thing is usually it's different players. Like if you keep going the same person and get your trust violated again and again and again and again, stop going to that person. But if I hold on an interaction and relationship I had with somebody and now transfer that relationship to a new one, that's where I have to say, but it's new people, it's new dynamics. I've learned, I've grown, I'm a different person myself. So how does that actually shape things different? All right, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to show you an exercise that we will often take teams through. Obviously, you guys are not a team. We have 119 of you on this call, which is fantastic. You're not a team, but we're still going to ask you some questions afterwards. So we just want you to pay attention to the video, notice what stands out to you, and then we'll have a discussion about it, and then we're going to talk about 3 types of trust as well as trust busters.
Alia and Gael have to trust each other. As acrobats in Cirque du Soleil, they sometimes literally put their lives in someone else's hands. Trust is a confusing thing. It seems so simple, but when you try to pin it down, it can be elusive. I think of the way that my body sits on a surface that's new to me, unknown, and how my muscles remain tight, anticipating anything, and I'm constantly aware of that surface. Over time, with familiarity, I can relax and start to lean back. For many of us, that initial tension exists so much of the time. We expend so much energy watching and calculating, trying to predict, reading signals in people, ready for anything to change suddenly, preparing to be disappointed. So much energy spent. We talk about trust as something you build, as if it's a structure or a thing, but in that building there seems to be something about letting go. What it affords us is a luxury. It allows us to stop thinking, to stop worrying that someone won't catch us if we fall, to stop constantly scanning for inconsistencies, to stop wondering how other people act when they're not in our presence. It allows us to relax a part of our minds so that we can focus on what's in front of us. And that's why it's such a tragedy when it's broken. A betrayal can make you think of all the other betrayals that are waiting for you, things that you haven't thought of, and people you rely on. And you can feel yourself tightening up, bracing, and in the worst cases, you might resolve to trust no one. But that doesn't really work. Trust is your relationship to the unknown, what you can't control, and you can't control everything. And it's not all or none. It's a slow and steady practice of learning about the capacity of the world. And it's worth it to keep trying, and it's not easy. Alia says that trust is like a fork, not one way, but many ways. Physical, emotional, maybe something else. I almost imagine trust as these invisible hands that we stretch out into the world looking for someone to hold on to as we walk into the unknown future. Alia and Gael began practicing together as friends, and now they are a couple. It took time. So who do you trust? And how can you grow it?
Not sure what that exactly is, but there we go. So that's the credit for the video. We wanted to be able to share that with you guys. So Kara, I'm going to go ahead and take the screen off and have you lead this part of the discussion, okay?
Yeah, also, Jim, just a heads up for you. I can't see the chat at all.
I can't hear you.
Just so, can you hear me now?
There, it's a little muffly. Go ahead.
I can't see the chat at all, and I can't see any of the messages coming through, just so you know. So just a heads up for you.
Okay, I'll navigate behind the scenes.
Okay, so what for you guys, when you were, of course, besides her abs, what were some of the things, and his abs too, what did you notice about that video?
And if you want people to be able to raise their hand and hear from a few people too, that's great. So we have alignment, effortless, easeful. They were fluid, strength, the synergy between them, interdependencies, constant movement, melded together. They were one. It's a practice. Tension, no speaking needed, no hesitation. Trust is a state of being. They move together, mindfulness, and expends energy. Both were strong unto themselves and responsible for their own actions. Balance of support and opposing forces. Intentional moving. Trust is your relationship to the unknown.
And just out of curiosity, and just so you guys know this is part of how we just run this exercise in groups. What surprised you about the video?
So, and if you no verbal cues, there was no speaking between them. Equal strength. There seemed to be a balance between the two, says David, who also said hi to you earlier, Karen. The words were matching the action.
Interesting, right? And if you could say, they seem, they're totally, calm. But one of the sentences that popped out for me in this was, trust is your relationship to the unknown. What words or what comments that the gentleman narrating this, what were some of those words that popped up for you? Because that was one I was like, man, that's ingrained in my head, right? Trust is your relationship with the unknown.
Great. So some different things of focus. And again, if you want to raise your hand, we'd love to be able to unmute you and hear what you have to say, because that is always fun. Lori says, not one way, but there's many ways. Lorna, friends first, now a couple. Hala says it takes time. Alan says there's a huge world of unknown, like everything. LaDawn couldn't hear the narration. Well, it'll be in the recording. Trust is like building a building. Judy says, I'm curious about trust being one's relationship to the unknown when the video was more focused on their relationship to the incredibly well-known. They practiced that encounter times to flow through it so smoothly. Yeah, but there's still unknown. I have to jump in on that, right? So if you think about it, there's unknown what our reaction is going to be. There's unknown if their muscles, will this be the time that they can't do it? There's unknown on if the other person is on top of their game or not on top of their game. So although it's a well-rehearsed thing, there's still a lot of unknown.
And the thing too, Jen, is if they didn't trust each other, they couldn't get that far, right? So maybe the first time out, right? Who's dropping who? The first time out, what's going wrong? But the thing is they trusted each other enough to go back and do whatever it was they had to do to make this work.
Well, and even Alan typed in here, he said there could be a distraction or sweaty palms, right? So yeah, that makes sense. So, and how many times have we trusted everything to work out perfectly, or we control it enough to feel as if it will work out perfectly, and then we get blindsided? Yeah. So good, Judy. So what does it mean to trust through mistakes and missteps? another great coaching question, if you were with a team here and somebody brought that up, is to say, so what do they need to trust even though they know their next move? Right? So those are great questions. So when we do this with teams and groups, it is truly about hearing their answers and then morphing that into other possibilities with questions. Let me read a few more, Kara, for you. Trusting another means we have to surrender whatever unfolds with that person. Oh, I love it. Judy said what you just said, Jen, made me think of the concept of beginner's mind.
Totally. Yep. And you know it too. And these are the kind of things that you pull in, right? And you ask so now if something pops up about, trust is your relationship with the unknown, a great next question is, okay, great. What's this team's relationship with the unknown? So this can keep going, further and further down. I don't want to say rabbit hole, but, further and further to help find the things behind the things that are getting in the way for teams.
I love it. There's a lot of great things, concepts that are shared in this video. So what we do is we actually show the video and lead this discussion. At times we may have a slide that we put up that talks about the concepts that are in the video. And so a few of them are things that the narrator said, a new surface, I feel tight. With familiarity, I can relax. What still feels tight with this team? Where is this team feeling pretty familiar? What can we, and both can exist. So how do we learn from the familiarity to loosen up some of that tightness?
One of the things too, Jen, that he said in here was something about trust affords us the luxury to stop thinking. I mean, that's amazing. When you can get a group of people in a room to essentially get to a spot where there doesn't have to be that insane thinking going on, where they could just be with each other. That's taking the team to a whole new level.
Mm-hmm. Some other ones that I love are stop scanning for inconsistencies. So if somebody has difficulty with trust, often they will look for evidence to support their viewpoint. So by looking for an inconsistency, that's where I can't trust them because that didn't match, as opposed to sometimes scanning for consistencies that are building trust around there.
And to piggyback on that, it's then that almost gets to the mindset of how do we start to shift that mindset to have people catch other people doing things right instead of trying to build, a Perry Mason case, I probably stated myself there, against somebody with all the things that they're doing wrong. Well, I don't trust him because of this, and this. It's like, oh, wait a second. He did this. That was pretty good. He did that. That was pretty good. So being able to say, okay, great. I was looking in this direction, but now I'm going to start looking in this direction.
Love it. So, So that's what we do. So that's a great exercise. And there's all different kinds of videos that you can find that really support the concept and what feels really good to you. But that is a great way to be able to get that discussion about trust going. And a big thing is if we even trusted each other more as a team, what's possible, right? So it's a great way to be able to do that.
It's funny, just a heads up too, this topic can get a little goofy when you start talking about it in the beginning because people aren't really used to talking about it. And it's funny, we work with this one insanely action-oriented organization, and we're doing some trust work with them. And it was, I think it was like after lunch, and one of the women's like, all right, we trust each other. Can't we just get to now what we're going to do? Like what actions we need to take? But the thing is, if you don't have that trust, you're not going to get to the real stickability pieces of the action that, that will stick.
I love it. Eric, this is a great question. He writes in and says, how does accountability and expectation impact trust in a group dynamic? Hugely, right? So accountability, so there's a couple of different ways. One is accountability. Do I say what I'm going to do when I say I'm going to do it? Could build trust if the answer is yes. let's say that I don't as the team member, and Karen's the team leader, and she doesn't call out my not being accountable. People will actually lose trust in the leader for not managing the accountability of a team. So that's a big one. And expectations, always, anytime we have expectations and they're not being met, it's going to cause friction of some sort within ourselves. And that then will sometimes erode trust as well.
That's one of the big parts about this. When you first start doing this, it's helping people actually define the things that you just asked about. So let's define accountability. Let's figure out what the expectations actually are when everybody's walking out of the room, right? Who's doing what? When's it expected back? What do we expect of you? And helping people see that as they're a part of the team, what are people, what can they be accountable for? What can the other team members expect from them? And that's part of the trust kind of exercises to getting to know each other a little bit better. Because the funny thing is, a lot of times these teams have worked together for a long time, but they never have these conversations. So they really do get to know each other a lot better. And if I can understand somebody else a lot more, then I'm going to know, and they tell me what can be expected of them or what's their strong points. What is it that they're going to bring to the table? It's more likely that I'm going to be able to see them a different way.
Love it. So I'm going to jump back to the PowerPoint, the slide deck for a second, Care, and we'll continue on with that.
Just really quick too, this slide that Jen just showed, you always want to make sure that you're giving whatever resources that you use credit that you're using them.
Perfect. Okay, so Eric just typed in, do you think that false or misguided expectations should be addressed as directly? I always think that they should be addressed directly. So I don't know if it's as directly, but yes, I think that when we're coaching and people have the false expectations, misguided expectations, then it does need to be addressed to either resolve it, to let them go, to have acceptance, to have new conversations, to realign on expectations with other people, for sure, definitely. Okay. So here we have 3 types of trust. Often people think only about trusting others. When in organizations, and this could be educational institutions, it's not-for-profits, it's corporations, it's small business. It's really pretty much where people are gathering together and working towards a common goal. There's 3 types of trust that comes into play. And most often people only focus on the personal trust, even when the other 2 influence how we feel about our personal trust. So the 3 types of trust we have, the first one is strategic. And this is about having trust that the top leaders have visions and competence to set the right course. Do I trust where the leaders are taking us from a strategic perspective? The personal trust is about trusting other people. Do they treat people fairly? Do they consider each other's needs? Do they place company needs over their own personal needs? The other thing is organizational trust. Is there trust in the company itself? Does the company make good on its promises? Are processes well-defined, consistent, and fair? Okay, so those are the 3 different types of trust that actually comes in.
It's funny because the personal trust thing, like Jen just said, that's usually the one thing that stands out. And that's, again, being able to see things that, okay, great, there's different ways that companies can show trust. There's different ways that people can show trust. And it's funny because trust always makes me think of this. I can sit here and say, I trust somebody 100% to be at work on time. Or, you could say, I trust 100% that this guy's going to walk into this meeting and he's going to be a thorn in my side. So knowing the different ways that trust even fits in that way is just a great think about, so what are you trusting people? To show up the way they're going to show up, to actually trust them with something, with a project, with deadlines, with being on time. So there's all sorts of different ways that trust, and that really shows up a lot of times, in a little bit more of the strategic trust piece.
Yeah. And so when you're working with leaders, one great questions is to say, so how is this impacting the trust on your team? How is this impacting the trust in the organization? How is this impacting, it depends on what level of leader they are, the strategic trust that employees want to have, and really seeing how all of these things are connected. I love it. Diana says, oh, trust versus belief, an interesting distinction.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like, all right, yeah, I trust that guy to be an A-hole.
I love it. So the reason why we shared this is to realize that often people will look at people, but it's really about then what is the overall impact that's happening. Like I said, some of your people are going to say, I need my team to trust me more, or I want to trust my team more, and I just can't. Some people are going to say, I don't trust my boss. So maybe you're doing a 360 in an organization, and the feedback around a person is that they don't trust them. So it's about understanding these different components to be able to coach to see the cause and effect for each. Should we do Trust Busters, Kara?
Yep.
All right. Why don't you go ahead and take us through?
All right, so the first one we're going to talk about is just, and we're just going to tap on these briefly, is the inconsistent messages. So this is the thing that shows up so often when you go into any organization, and this happens a lot. It's the inconsistent messages. So, the messages that sales might get might be different from the messages that marketing might get, that HR might get. So the thing here is who's hearing what and how are they hearing them? And this is a great way, well, not a great way in a great way, but a great way for trust to get eroded really quickly when the leadership or when people are hearing different messages from their leaders. So what the quick fix is on this is making sure, what's the message that people are delivering? How accurate is that message? What are the ways that the message is getting communicated to everybody the same way?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, even inconsistent messages of saying, I trust you. Let's say somebody actually says to an employee, I trust you to complete this project, and then they start micromanaging, right? That's another inconsistent message. Is my words and my actions aligned? What am I actually telling you? If I say I don't need to be at that meeting and then I get mad that you had the meeting without me, there's inconsistency that comes into that. So it can be organizationally from departments, but also just behaviors and interactions.
So the next thing here, inconsistent standards. It's funny. What this one is about, it's basically, you have your A, and I think about the law enforcement world, right? In my old world, it was like, all right, there was always an A team and a B team. And who was the Chiefs boys or the Chiefs girls? And they got to do or say whatever they did was fine because they were, in his eyes, they couldn't do anything wrong. So the thing here, this happens a lot. It's about the standards, making sure that everybody's playing the same game, right? If we're all playing baseball, we all need to follow the rules. So making sure that the teams understand that. And I'm going to throw, that being said, I'm going to throw another little wrench in here for you too. And Jen's like probably going, all right, what the hell are you going to say? But the thing here is this statement is about essentially not playing favorites. Now, another flip side to this is an insanely successful leader that we work with hears this sometime, and she's like, well, then why don't you be my favorite? That's the response, because her favorites work their ass off. They go above and beyond. They run through walls for her. They look at the big picture of the company. They make things happen. They get things done. So her response is when it's just like, well, he gets that because he's the favorite. She's like, be my favorite. So I think that's a cool little spin to throw in there also on this with the inconsistent standards.
Love it. All right, I'll do the next two and you'll do the last two. How's that sound?
Whatever works then.
All right, perfect. So misplaced benevolence. So this is basically when people turn an eye around bad behavior. It's a great way to say it, right? So they don't deal with volatile employees, negative employees, people that are disengaged and not showing up for work, and they're more compliant than they are committed. That's a good way to say it. And it's really then deciding to not do anything to course correct that will erode trust, like that, Care.
How?
Like a hard snap, okay? The other is the failure to trust others. So that's actually if you show up without trust and you don't trust people to do stuff, that is going to then create the atmosphere of mistrust. So again, it's the micromanaging. It's about the being controlling. It's the being very skeptical of what other people are doing and why it's doing. And depending on how that gets communicated, like to others, that then creates a distrusting environment.
I think here too with the next one, John, with elephants in the living room. This is something that, we see a lot with the teams that we work with, that there's a thing that they're not talking about. And as a leadership and corporate coach or somebody that's going in there and facilitating team discussions, this is your job. Your job is to recognize the elephant in the living room and call it out, right? And I don't mean by calling out, feeding it a martini and letting it just sleep. It's calling it out and basically figuring out, what's this about? Because this is going to help you get them to trust each other more, to be able to be the person in the room that's actually facilitating a conversation around something uncomfortable. So this shows up a lot. And being able to just really say, okay, we're gonna talk about this now. The energy just shifted. Something just happened. What was that? And great, now we're gonna actually talk about it. And then the last one about rumors in a vacuum. This is basically, this is about not letting the rumor mill go rampant. This is the water cooler BS, the water cooler politics. The meetings after the meetings that people start to make stuff up about. So this is about really helping people stop that and figure out, okay, how I like to Joe Friday, what are the facts? What are really going on here? And being able to separate that fact from fiction.
Yep, we threw an extra C in that for good measure, Care. Whoops, sorry about that. In vacuum. So one other, I know. I don't even know where ours is.
You don't. And just for the record, spelling is not one of our things. And if you see something that's spelled wrong, don't be afraid to tell us. We're totally cool with it, because we both looked at this and didn't even know vacuum was spelled wrong.
So one other little thing that I want to throw in there, and then we do have some hands raised, which is going to be perfect timing, is that the elephant in the room. Being in a team dynamic, you have to feel comfortable with bringing that elephant out in the room. So we were in this one corporate gig where people were kind of bashing sales. I'm just, and this is what's wrong, and da-da-da. There was this whole elephant in the room, right? But everybody was talking around it. Karen and I had to say, whoa, what just happened here? What's going on with the energy? What's not being said? So being able to say that is important to be able to do, because that's where the real work is. Because we found out what the elephant in the room was. It was specifically about sales. And there was some strong opinions. And then we said, we're going to use this energy to go to solution. We said to the sales dude, we said, hey, how about we use you as a great opportunity to solve some of these challenges people feel that are happening in your group or whatever. He said, sure. And the next thing you know, we had, I don't know how many people were in that meeting, but we had, let's say, 8 really smart people brainstorming solutions to the areas people were frustrated about. They reworked an entire plan based on that allowed them to hit the numbers they needed to hit. People felt they were a part of the solution. The salesperson had a lot of things they had to walk away with. They had all these flip charts with different ideas because we put people on different strategy task force to use that time wisely. So I just wanted to share that with you, that as a coach, you have to pull that elephant out because that's where the real work will get done. Good. Okay, so let's do this. I see that we have a couple of hands raised. It is time for Q&A. Before we get to those, I wanted to let you know that Karen and I have what we are calling open office hours. If you're struggling with a sticky leadership situation or working in corporate or something is on your mind and you want a sounding board for it, Monday, this upcoming Monday, we'll have open office hours from 11 to 1. There's J is for Jen, that's my phone number, and Karen is K. I feel like that was very self-explanatory. And if you want to just give us a call, pick up the phone, call us, and we can talk to you about anything that might be going on that you want some help around. We're going to be in different locations, so you do have to call the right number for whoever it is that you want to talk to. So I just want to let you know that we're here to be able to support you.
I wonder how many different locations we'll be in during this series.
I think a lot.
Maybe 2.
I think so. Okay, so the next thing, so just jot down those numbers. They'll also come out in the email that we send the recording on so that you have those. Okay, and we're going to do that periodically throughout the 6 sessions, 6 webinars. The other thing that we just want to highlight very briefly is that we do have a leadership and corporate coach training program, and we're just going to put up the URL. If you'd like to check it out, please do. Just go to kickstartyouredge.com/coach training, and the next program starts May 2019, and there's 2 certifications. That's it. The last thing we want to do before taking the Q&A is we want to introduce you to our team. So we have our Kickstart Your Edge coaching team, and we have different roles for different people that are here. Some of these people may be familiar to some of you. You may actually know them. So we have Carrie Doreen and Cheryl Wilson. They are both coaches for us, and they all 5 people are coaches for us, and they work with us and work with our different team members to be able to provide corporate and executive coaching. Carrie and Cheryl both do some facilitation for us in our program that we have. And then we also have Erica and Alan. So Erica Marks and Alan Cohen are part of our enrollment team that are here to be able to answer any questions if you are interested in our coach training program. So we just want to introduce their names and their smiles to everybody so that they see it. And then there's Susie as well, who does coaching for us and works with some of our teams as well. So we just wanted to introduce that to see the 7 of us are the ones who really support our love for corporate coaching. So I'm going to actually stop the screen share, Karen. Let's open it up for any questions for about till the top of the hour. Sound good?
Great.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Sally typed in and said, "You're the best, Jen. So glad to have been trained by you once again, and so glad to finally meet you, Karen. Looking forward to the rest of the webinar. I trust it's going to be tremendous." All right, so let's go with this. I'm going to start with Lorna. Lorna, I'm going to give you the ability to talk. Can we hear you? Oh, you know what? It's going to flip you over, apparently. You do not need to turn your camera on. Let me unmute you. This is fascinating. I've never done this before. I cannot unmute audio. Oh, wait, I might have to do it over here. Well, this isn't very smooth, is it, Karen?
No, I get technical issues today, Barley.
I know. So, Lauren, let's see. If you could go to your screen in the, probably in the, does it say that you can unmute? Come on. We might be doing it at the same time. All right, what other questions do you guys have? Type them in while we're getting Lorna figured out. All right, so that's not going so well. Sorry, Lorna, it looks like it's not going to work. So if you want to go ahead All right, she popped away.
You type in your question.
Can type it in. Yes, the slide deck will be available. It'll just be sent as part of the links of what's going on, so that'll be great. What else do you guys have in terms of any questions about trust or anything coming into play? There has to be something good, right? Alan says, what if the leader is the elephant in the room? Well, then it needs to be talked about, right? So part of it is understanding, a lot of it depends on how it's going to happen. It could be that there needs to be some private one-on-one conversation with that person. We have to figure out, how do we know that that's the elephant in the room? And one of the great questions, it's leading, but to ask the leader, what might it do for the team if we talk about some of the elephant in the room? How could it actually help the team grow? How does it help the team be able to move forward? What would you say, Kara?
So I think a couple things. I think it's going to depend on your relationship with the leader. I had a relationship with one of the leaders that I was working with, and I essentially told you he had left a room for something at one point when we were doing a workshop, and it was very evident that he didn't come back for a bit. And I'm like, I got to go find this guy. So I left the room, I went to go find him, and when I found him, he's in a room with these two other people, and I stood there, I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, and he said, they needed me for something. And I said to him, do you realize that you just became the elephant in the living room? I said, we need to get back in that room, and we need to basically have a conversation about why you left. Now, I knew why you left, but the interesting part of that was he was absolutely 100% for it. He came back in the room, he apologized, and he said, I don't know how to say no. And that started such an amazing discussion with the people in this room, and it actually helped other people see him in a different light by him putting his own vulnerabilities out there. He doesn't know how to say no. These people pinged him. He's like, I gotta go check it out. And then that's what happened. So sometime addressing the elephant in the living room will help the team get to such a different level, but it's got to then be you saying, how are you going to call them out on it? And it's about developing the relationships you can with these leaders that you're working with.
The other thing we did, here, I remember that. You're so good at remembering these examples. The other thing that happened is then we said to the team, when he came back, I'm sorry, I can't say no, blah, blah, blah. And then we said, okay, so Karen and I have this concept, and it's called MSU. And it's that, do you want to?
Trademark.
What?
Trademark.
It is trademarked. We have a registered trademark on it. It's MSU, and we make stuff up, right?
Yes.
And so what happens is when that leader came back, we said, and they all knew what MSU was. So we said, all right, everybody. So what shit did you just make up about him leaving the room? He doesn't care. He's not that committed. He's not as involved. We had people actually say the stuff that they were making up in their head out loud to show what happens when these dynamics are there. And then we said to the gentleman, we said, and what of that is true? And he said, none. I just need to know how to say no. And then we even did a little thing in the moment of what would it say about you if you did say no? And how does that come up? And what is he MSU about it? So it's actually fantastic to be able to deal with that. All right, so yes, I'm going to just share a couple more thoughts as we are at our very last moment, Karen.
Diana, for those of you guys that don't know, this is what I do to tell Jen that time's up. This is like, wrap it up, Wiley. Let's land this plane.
Got it. Okay, so really quickly, Diana says, how do you deal with the situation when one side can clearly articulate why they don't trust the other side, and the other side says, don't worry, that's not what you thought. Go ahead and trust me to do that thing, minimizing the issue of trust. Then you talk about the impact the lack of trust is having on the team. So it's not about it's the situation. It's how is that affecting the behaviors of the people on the team. So if you guys have other questions, go ahead and type them in to us. Send us an email. We'll be happy to answer. And on that note, Karen, it's exactly the top of the hour. We are officially done, and we will now land this plane. So thank you, everybody, for being a part of this. We have our next webinar series a week from today, December 11th, and that's going to be at noon Eastern time. In the meantime,
don't forget open office hours, and you do know how to reach us. Well, if you don't know how to reach us, you could reach us at jen@kickstartyouredge.com or karen@kickstartyouredge.com. And we really, really appreciate seeing all the old familiar names and lots of the new people in our world. So thank you very much.
Awesome. And I'm Jen with 2 N's. As we like to say, Jen. No, we don't like to say that. All right. On that note, we're gone. See you guys later. Thanks so much.
Bye, guys. Thank you.